Hey, welcome back. My hair was starting to get to hippie levels, at least for me, and so decided it was time to get it cut. And now I wrote a book on extreme composting called Compost Everything, the Good Guide to Extreme Composting. And, you know, almost everybody knows that you could throw hair in your compost pile. So after I get my hair cut, we're gonna go down there, we're gonna throw some hair in the compost pile, and I'm gonna show you a way of composting you may have never seen before. Be back with you in a few minutes. I view composting as an excuse to carry stuff out of the house, get away from my desk, get away from the stuff I'm doing, go wander the gardens and visit and throw things where they belong, back into the soil. However, I don't like to work all that hard at composting. I just like to take bits and pieces from the house, throw them into one of my garden beds. This might seem sort of crazy. This is not the way you normally see composting. You see the perfect mixes of greens and browns and all that jazz. You don't see somebody taking paper towels out of their house and throwing it into one of the garden beds. But what I figured out is cold compost leaves you with more stuff. It also takes a lot less work than trying to get your ratios and trying to turn it. I used to be one of those guys who was out there turning it religiously and trying to get it all perfect. Now, I pick one of the garden beds that I'm not currently using. I just start piling all of the kitchen scraps and bits and pieces and the discarded tomato plants and everything else into one place, and then I turn around and turn it over maybe a year from now and I plant into it. If there's still some undigested material at the top or some rough stuff, I'll take it and I'll chuck it into the next garden bed, and then the next garden bed becomes my compost for the next year. And what happens is after I have put all of this material into that compost bed for that long cooking period of time there for it to just rot down and do what nature does, that becomes very fertile soil. Rather than having a compost pile elsewhere where a lot of that material is leaching into the ground and later gets used by grass or weeds or who knows what, a lot of that fertility is in the ground beneath the compost pile. I do it right in the garden, so whatever seeps down stays there. I also don't till it up. I just move it around and plant into it, rake a seed bed, and that is just full of earthworms, that is rich stuff, and it goes deep beneath the ground into the soil under the compost. This is a super simple way to improve one of your garden beds every year and just kind of rotate through. But it doesn't mean you're not getting any produce out of that garden bed while it happens. In fact, you often get more than you expected. Let me show you what's growing in this bed right now. On this end here, it looks like we have some cannonball trees that have started from where I threw it in the corner. And we have, this is a mango, these are cannonball trees, so far as I can tell. And we have more mangoes popping up in here. And any one of these I can transplant. Look at this. So over here, we've got a yam that came from something that we peeled off of a yam or chucked in here. I can take this yam out and transplant it, just like I can transplant any of these little mangoes that are growing. And more mangoes. And more mangoes. And more mangoes. This is a moringa tree that decided to start here from a chunk that we threw in. And then check this out. We've got a beautiful squash. Anybody that has ever done composting for any period of time will tell you that the best produce grows out of the compost pile. And I just let a lot of this stuff go. Interestingly here, you can see there's a big pile of slop there. There are some pineapple tops I could pull out and plant, but they'll probably grow there on their own. Look at this. This is cocoa. So one of the first things we did when we got here is we harvested some of the cocoa from the cocoa orchard and made our own chocolate, and then I threw the debris that was left in there, including some pods that were kind of rotten, and now we have cocoa plants growing in our compost. So any of this stuff here I can take out and transplant. There's another little baby cocoa tree, and use it elsewhere. Or I could even just compost in place and just let it grow into the forest if I felt like it. Back in the corner there's actually some ginger growing. I don't know exactly how that got in there or if it was in this bed ahead of time. But there's just sprouts and bits and pieces. Here we have papaya that just probably ended up falling out of here when one of my kids threw some papaya bits. Just fell onto the path, and now we have papaya trees I could transplant. So we're gonna get pumpkins out of here. We've got a bunch of little trees that I can pull and graft. We've got a yam I can dig up. The stuff that grows in the compost pile, hey, that's fair game. You can put it elsewhere. But you see, this bed is going to be super rich. It may not be a pretty way to do it, but it certainly improves the soil long term. That's some super easy composting right there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for checking out my new late 80s, early 90s hairstyle. Be sure to visit me on the web at thesurvivalgardener.com. Like, share, subscribe, all that cool stuff. And until next time, keep growing. Oh, and don't forget, my book Compost Everything, The Good Guide to Extreme Composting, is on Amazon. Look it up under David the Good.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down.